When I went to hospital, I encountered my ex-hubby, who was a doctor. "You're pregnant at your age?" The morning light seeped softly through the thin curtains of my small apartment, casting a warm glow on the familiar clutter around me. I blinked awake, the remnants of a restless night lingering as I lay there, staring at the ceiling. It was Saturday, but the day felt unusually heavy, a weight pressing down on my chest. I glanced over at the clock, almost 10. Guilt at sleeping and barely registered, overshadowed by a stronger, persistent feeling of loss. I sat up and swung my legs over the bed's edge, feeling the cool hardwood floor beneath my feet. The silence of the apartment felt deafening, a stark contrast to the chaotic noise that used to fill this space. I had spent years here with Jack, my husband, my partner, now just a memory, a ghost haunting the corners of my mind. Standing in the living room, I saw remnants of the life we shared. Photos on the walls, mismatched furniture we'd chosen together, the half-finished puzzle on the coffee table we'd started on a lazy Sunday afternoon. I traced my fingers over the puzzle's jagged edges, feeling as if they mapped our love story, a tale that had grown increasingly complex with time. I closed my eyes, letting memories rush back. I recalled the day we met at the hospital. I was fresh out of nursing school, eager and bright-eyed, and he was the charming doctor who made my heart race every time he walked by. Jack had a way of lighting up a room with his laughter, and I fell for him hard. Our relationship blossomed quickly, filled with laughter, shared dreams, and whispered promises. "Sarah, can you believe we're finally doing this?" he'd said on our wedding day, his eyes alight with excitement. "We're going to conquer the world together." But as the years wore on, that light faded, overshadowed by a darkness I had tried to ignore. Casual comments slipped into our conversations like poison. "You could stand to lose a few pounds," he'd say lightly, as if it meant nothing. I laughed it off, convincing myself he was joking, but the words cut deeper than he could know. I shook my head, forcing myself back to the present. It was too easy to get lost in memories of the Jack I'd loved before it all shattered with the discovery of his infidelity. The betrayal destroyed everything: the trust, the love, the very foundation of our life together. "Sarah, it's not what you think," he'd insisted when I confronted him, still using that charm that once drew me in. But his eyes told a different story, defensive, evasive. "Then what is it, Jack?" I'd replied, my voice breaking under the weight of my heartache. "I saw the messages. I saw her name." In that moment, the life we'd built crumbled. The love that once felt like a constant had become a distant memory, slipping away with every painful word exchanged. I took a deep breath and walked into the kitchen, inhaling the lingering scent of stale coffee. I poured myself a fresh cup, leaning against the counter as steam curled up from the mug. I had to focus on the present, take one step at a time. Just last week, the divorce had been finalized, a bitter end to a turbulent chapter. I should have felt relief, maybe even freedom, but instead, there was an emptiness where my dreams had once been. Hey everyone, if you're enjoying this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel so that YouTube can understand and deliver more of our content to you. "Sarah, you can do this," I whispered to myself, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. I closed my eyes, trying to envision a future I could rebuild, a life filled with joy. The thought felt daunting. I'd spent so many years as Jack's wife. I'd nearly forgotten who I was without him. A buzz on the counter pulled me from my thoughts. I glanced down and saw a message from Emily, my best friend. "Brunch tomorrow? You need to get out." I couldn't help but smile, grateful for her unwavering support. Emily had been my rock through this ordeal, reminding me of my worth when I couldn't see it. "Sure, I'd love that," I replied, tapping the screen. I craved connection, a reminder that I wasn't alone. As I finished my coffee, I looked around the apartment, realizing it was time for a change. I needed to pack away the memories, create a space that felt like me. Moving room to room, I sorted through the clutter, tackling remnants of my past. Old clothes went into donation bags. Photo frames were carefully boxed and stored. "Goodbye, Jack," I murmured, feeling a mixture of sadness and empowerment, as if I were shedding an old skin. By late afternoon, I transformed the apartment into an open space that felt lighter, less suffocating. For the first time in months, I could breathe. I sank onto the sofa, feeling a sense of accomplishment and a tentative relief. But with that relief came the realization of the journey ahead. I needed a job, a way to support myself and regain my independence. Nursing was my profession, something I once loved, but finding a new position felt intimidating. The memories of endless shifts and caring for patients had been tainted by the emotional turmoil of my personal life. "All right, Sarah, let's do this," I said aloud, a spark of determination growing. I pulled out my laptop, searching for nursing positions nearby. Each click felt like a step toward reclaiming my life, a step away from the pain of my past. Hours slipped by as I scrolled through listings, my heart racing with a mix of excitement and anxiety. A position at a small maternity clinic caught my eye. Maternity care, I thought. That could be a fresh start. I hesitated, contemplating the emotional toll. A small ache pulsed at the thought of new beginnings, yet I felt drawn to it. I picked up the phone and dialed the number in the ad, my hands trembling as it rang. "Hello, this is Clara. How can I help you?" came a warm voice. "Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm calling about the nursing position at your clinic," I said, my voice steady but unsure. "Of course. We'd love to hear from you. Could you come in for an interview next week?" Clara replied, her enthusiasm washing over me like a wave of comfort. "Yes, absolutely," I managed, a smile spreading across my face. As I hung up, I felt a rush of hope. This could be the beginning of something new, a chance to help others during one of the most vulnerable times in their lives. I wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of excitement. I glanced around my freshly organized apartment, a small swell of pride filling me. I was rediscovering who I was, and with that came the promise of healing. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I felt ready to face it, fortified with resilience and a renewed sense of self. As I approached the small maternity clinic on my first day, a blend of excitement and anxiety washed over me. The building was quaint, painted a soothing lavender with crisp white trim, a nostalgic reminder of simpler times, perhaps even before Jack had upended my life. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. The familiar scent of antiseptic mixed with a hint of baby powder, making me feel both at home and slightly on edge. "Sarah, welcome." A warm voice cut through my thoughts, and I turned to see a woman in scrubs with kind brown eyes and a welcoming smile. "I'm Lisa, the head nurse. We're thrilled to have you on the team." "Thank you, Lisa," I replied, my voice slightly unsteady. "I'm really excited to be here." As we walked through the lively clinic, I noticed the friendly chatter and laughter of the staff. It was a stark contrast to my previous workplace, where the air was thick with tension and judgment. Cheerful baby photos adorned the walls, along with motivational quotes that seemed to fill the place with positivity. "This is the break room," Lisa said, gesturing toward a cozy corner with a small kitchen and a table covered in magazines. "We usually gather here for lunch. And over there is the nursery. You'll love it. Nothing compares to hearing a baby's first cry." I smiled, her enthusiasm infectious. "I've missed that. It's one of the best parts of being a nurse." "Absolutely. You'll fit right in," she assured me, patting my shoulder. "Now, let's introduce you to the rest of the team." We approached a small group of nurses who paused their conversation to look over at me. "Everyone, this is Sarah, our new nurse," Lisa announced. "Hi, Sarah. Welcome aboard." A chorus of friendly greetings filled the room, each voice warm and inviting. I felt a surge of warmth spread through me, a sense of belonging I hadn't felt in so long. "Thank you, everyone. I'm looking forward to working with you all," I said, my confidence slowly building. "Let's show you around," one of the nurses offered, linking arms with me as she led me down the hall. I was introduced to various departments, each one buzzing with energy. Watching my colleagues care for expectant mothers and newborns, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Maybe, just maybe, this was the fresh start I needed. As the day progressed, I found myself slipping into the rhythm of the clinic. I assisted with checkups, monitored vital signs, and even helped a nervous couple prepare for their first ultrasound. Each interaction reminded me why I'd chosen nursing. the chance to make a meaningful impact on someone's life. Just when I thought the day couldn't be going better, the door swung open, and in walked Jack, my ex-husband, alongside his new wife, Emily. My heart dropped, and the room seemed to blur. I froze, struggling to process the sight of them together. Their smiles so casual, their presence jarring in a place where I'd felt so safe. "Is that?" one of my colleagues whispered, her eyes wide with surprise. "Yes," I managed to reply, my voice barely above a whisper. "Stay calm, Sarah. Just focus on your work," Lisa whispered softly, casting me a sympathetic glance. I took a deep breath, but my pulse raced as I watched Jack approach the reception desk, his hand resting possessively on Emily's back. Emily looked radiant, her youth and ease a painful contrast to the exhaustion that had settled into my own life after the divorce. A pang of jealousy and inadequacy washed over me, sharp and bitter. "Sarah?" Jack's voice pierced through the clinic's soft murmur, and I felt a blush rise to my cheeks. His gaze met mine, surprise and something darker flickering across his face. "What are you doing here?" "This is my job, Jack," I replied, keeping my voice steady, trying to project professionalism despite the turmoil swirling inside me. "I work here now, right?" he scoffed, sarcasm lacing his words. "I didn't realize you'd be stalking us at work." I felt the blood drain from my face as whispers rippled through my colleagues, their gazes darting between us. The sting of judgment in their eyes made me wish I could disappear. "Jack, please. I'm just doing my job," I said, striving to keep my voice calm. "This is a professional environment." "Professional? And you think you can just pretend everything is fine?" he snapped. "You can't just move on and act like I don't exist." Emily clutched Jack's arm, a dramatic look of distress crossing her face. "Maybe we should go, Jack. I don't feel comfortable if she's going to cause a scene." "See? Even Emily knows what you're up to," Jack continued, his eyes narrowing. "You're pathetic, Sarah. Trying to play the victim?" I felt tears prick at my eyes, but I blinked them back. "You don't get to do this to me anymore, Jack," I said, my voice quivering yet resolute. "I'm here to help people, and that's what I'm focusing on." "Help people?" he scoffed, his tone sharp with derision. "You've always been a burden, just trying to drag me down with you." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Lisa and a few nurses standing nearby, their faces shifting from shock to concern. I could feel their support, a subtle reassurance against the embarrassment that burned through me. "Jack," I said, lowering my voice, pleading for discretion. "This isn't the time or place. Please. Maybe you should consider the consequences of your actions, Sarah," he sneered before turning away, his hand firmly on Emily's as they strode out the door. I stood there, frozen, my heart racing and my breath shallow. The clinic felt suddenly stifling, the whispers around me growing louder, the judgment pressing down like a weight. Lisa approached me, her hand gently resting on my back, her face etched with sympathy. "Sarah, I'm so sorry you had to go through that," she said softly. "You didn't deserve any of that." "Thank you," I managed, tears finally slipping down my cheeks. "I didn't expect to see him here. I really thought I could start over." "And you can," Lisa assured me, her voice gentle but firm. "Don't let him get to you. He's just trying to get under your skin." "I know, but it's hard not to feel humiliated," I admitted, wiping my face with the back of my hand. "I thought I was ready to handle this." "You're stronger than you realize," she said, her voice warm with empathy. "And we're all here for you. You're part of this team now." But as the day wore on, I struggled to shake off the encounter with Jack. I threw myself into my work, but the whispers and glances from my colleagues gnawed at the edges of my mind. The clinic, meant to be my refuge, now felt like a spotlight exposing every wound Jack had left. I felt like an outsider. When my shift finally ended, I lingered in the break room, gathering the nerve to face myself in the mirror. My own reflection stared back, tired but determined. I was more than Jack's ex-wife. I was a nurse, a woman trying to reclaim her life. I refused to let him define me any longer. But as I left the clinic that evening, a sinking feeling settled in my stomach. I'd hoped for a fresh start, yet it felt like my past wasn't done haunting me. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly as I sat in the break room, staring into my now lukewarm coffee. The aroma, once comforting, now felt bitter, like the atmosphere that surrounded me. Whispers drifted from my colleagues, their glances darting toward me, each one weighted with judgment. It had been weeks since Jack's first intrusion, but the memory of his accusations still echoed in my ears, leaving me feeling like a ghost of my former self. "Sarah, are you okay?" Lisa, one of the few colleagues who hadn't bought into Jack's narrative, approached with concern. I forced a smile, though it felt more like a grimace. "Yeah, just thinking about what happened with Jack. He's been spreading awful things," she murmured, lowering her voice. "You don't have to let him do this to you." I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose as the exhaustion bore down. "It's not just him, Lisa. It's the whole clinic. I'm not just Jack's ex-wife. I'm the woman they think did something wrong. That's ridiculous. You're an amazing nurse. Don't let him or anyone else make you doubt that," Lisa said, her voice firm but laced with hesitation. She wanted to support me, but the weight of Jack's influence still loomed. I turned away, tracing the rim of my coffee cup. "I thought this job would be my fresh start," I said quietly. "But every time I walk in, it feels like I'm stepping onto a battlefield." Lisa's expression softened. "Maybe it's time to consider other options," she suggested gently. "You deserve to work somewhere that values you, not somewhere that makes you feel like an outcast." I nodded, but the thought of leaving felt like surrender. I'd fought hard for this job, fought to reclaim a sliver of independence. "I just need to push through this," I replied, my voice cracking. "I can't let him win." The days dragged on, with Jack's presence hanging over me like a storm cloud. Every interaction with him felt like a betrayal, every venomous word another wound. One particularly tense afternoon, I found myself cornered in the supply room. I had just finished restocking when the door swung open, and there stood Jack, his face twisted with that all-too-familiar smugness. "You don't belong here, Sarah," he sneered, leaning against the doorway. "You're just a painful reminder of what I left behind." My heart raced, but I forced myself to stand tall. "I'm not going anywhere, Jack. This is my job." "Your job? Please," he scoffed, his tone dripping with disdain. "Everyone here knows the truth about you. You're just a washed-up nurse clinging to a past that's long gone." The sting of his words cut deep, but I refused to let him see the hurt. "I won't let you bully me anymore," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "I've moved on, Jack. You should too." "Oh, but I haven't even started. You'll regret this, Sarah." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving me trembling in the cramped room, the air thick with the tension he left behind. I took a moment to steady myself, breathing deeply, but as I left the supply room, I felt the stares of my colleagues bore into me, their whispers rippling like waves through the break room. I was becoming the clinic's pariah, a villain in the story Jack had spun. Later that evening, I called Emily, desperate for a lifeline. Her voice on the other end was warm and familiar. "Sarah, how was work today?" It was rough. Jack was there again, and I can't shake this feeling of dread. "Have you thought about what I suggested?" she asked gently. "Maybe it's time to leave." "I don't want to give up," I replied, frustration bubbling up. "I fought hard for this job. I can't let him push me out." "But at what cost?" she countered, her voice compassionate but firm. "Your mental health? Your peace? You deserve a safe space to work, Sarah." Her words sank in, and I fell silent. "It's just hard to think about starting over," I confessed, my voice wavering. "What if I can't find another job?" "Then we'll figure it out together," she said. "You're not alone in this. You're stronger than you know." As we ended the call, I felt a flicker of hope, but as the night wore on, doubt crept back in. The clinic, once a symbol of hope, had become a prison, and I was losing the will to fight. The next morning, I walked into the clinic with a heavy heart, the fluorescent lights harsh and unwelcoming. I knew I had to make a decision, but leaving felt like conceding defeat. As I passed my colleagues, their whispers trailed me, filling the silence with unspoken accusations. At lunch, I sat alone in the break room, the sting of isolation sharper than ever. Lisa entered, her face etched with concern. She sat across from me, pouring a fresh cup of coffee. "You look like you haven't slept in days," she said, gently pushing the cup toward me. "Thanks, but I'm fine," I lied, avoiding her gaze. "Sarah, please," she urged, her voice soft but insistent. "You don't have to pretend with me. It's okay to not be okay." "I don't know what to do anymore," I admitted, my walls finally crumbling. "I feel trapped, and I don't know how to get out." Lisa's gaze softened further. "Have you thought about resigning?" she asked gently. I closed my eyes, the idea settling over me like a heavy cloak. "It feels like giving up." "Or," she replied, her voice steady and encouraging, "it could be the first step toward finding peace. You deserve to work in an environment that lifts you up, not tears you down." With a trembling breath, I nodded, the decision wrapping around my heart like a vine. "Maybe it is time," I said slowly, feeling a strange mix of relief and sorrow wash over me. "But I don't want to feel like I'm giving up." "You're not defeated," Lisa reassured me, her voice steady. "You're reclaiming your life." As I contemplated my next steps, a sense of clarity began to pierce the fog of despair. The clinic had become a place of pain, no longer the safe haven I had hoped for. I owed it to myself to seek out a fresh start, a place where I could truly thrive, free from the ghosts of my past. That evening, as I walked out of the clinic for the last time, a weight lifted from my shoulders. The air felt different, charged with possibility. I had made the painful decision to resign, but it was also a decision to reclaim my life. A spark of hope ignited within me, a reminder that I was capable of starting anew. Time, I discovered, had a strange way of mending wounds I once thought permanent. Months later, sitting in my small but cozy apartment, I found myself breathing easier, the weight of my past finally beginning to ease. Although memories of Jack and Emily still lingered, they had softened from a sharp sting into a faint ache. Immersing myself in volunteer work had rekindled my passion for nursing, allowing me to piece together fragments of a life I thought was lost. One Saturday morning, I found myself surrounded by cheerful volunteers at the community center as we prepared for a charity event. The air was warm with laughter and the comforting scent of fresh coffee. These people had become my second family, united by our shared desire to make a difference. As I chopped vegetables for the soup kitchen, I glanced up and met the gaze of a man who had been volunteering with me for some time. His name was Michael, and his warm smile seemed to brighten the room. "Hey, Sarah, need a hand with that?" he called out, his voice welcoming. I returned his smile, a bit shyly. "I think I've got it, but I wouldn't mind a distraction." Michael chuckled and rolled up his sleeves, stepping closer. "Distraction coming right up. So, what brings you here today?" I paused, considering how to answer. "I needed something to fill the void," I said slowly. "After everything with my ex-husband, I wanted to give back. It's been therapeutic." Michael nodded, understanding glimmering in his eyes. "I get that. I went through a rough patch too, and volunteering helped me find my footing. It's amazing how helping others can help heal us too." His openness resonated with me, and I felt an unexpected connection forming. "What do you do when you're not here saving the world?" I asked playfully. He laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "I'm a graphic designer during the week, superhero on weekends." "What about you?" "I'm a nurse." "Or, well, I used to be," I replied, my heart skipping a beat as I shared a piece of my story. "That's incredible," he said, admiration in his voice. "Nurses are superheroes every day." As we worked, conversation flowed easily, and I found myself laughing more than I had in ages. Each moment felt refreshing, like breathing in clean air after a storm. By the time we'd finished, a lightness had settled over me, lifting the weight that had lingered so long. Throughout the charity event, the atmosphere buzzed with camaraderie and purpose. I watched Michael engage with guests, his charisma drawing people in effortlessly. He had a way of making everyone feel valued, and I couldn't help but admire him from a distance. Though the idea of opening my heart again felt daunting, his warmth made it feel like a possibility. "Sarah, come join us," Michael called, gesturing to a table where a group of volunteers sat, sharing laughter and stories. I hesitated, but his genuine invitation drew me in. "Looks like you've got a fan club," I teased as I joined the table. "Only because I have the best company," he replied, flashing a grin that sent my heart racing. The rest of the day passed in a blur of smiles and laughter, stories and shared moments. I felt part of something bigger, and for the first time in so long, I didn't feel alone. When the event ended, Michael and I stayed behind, helping clean up. "Can I buy you a coffee?" he asked, wiping his brow. "I'd love to hear more about your nursing stories." I hesitated, my heart fluttering. "I'd like that," I replied, trying to keep my voice casual. As we walked to a nearby cafe, conversation flowed freely. We talked about everything from favorite books to dreams for the future. I found myself sharing more than I expected, but it felt liberating. Michael listened intently, his kindness a steady presence as I recounted my journey. "You've been through a lot, Sarah," he said softly, his gaze unwavering. "It's inspiring to see you moving forward." "Thank you," I replied, warmth flooding through me. "It's still a work in progress, but I'm getting there." As we sipped our coffees, I noticed how comfortable I felt around him. There was no judgment, no reminders of my past. Just two people sharing a moment of connection. The more we talked, the clearer it became that something special was blossoming. But I was scared. Could I really let someone in again? Could I risk being hurt? "Hey, I know this might sound a bit forward," Michael said, breaking into my thoughts, "but I'd love to see you again. Maybe we could grab dinner sometime?" My heart raced at his invitation. "I'd like that," I said, a smile spreading across my face. "Just give me some time. I'm still figuring things out." "Of course," he replied, his tone gentle. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." As I walked home that evening, a sense of hope filled me. I felt lighter, as if I had shed a layer of my past. The thought of Michael lingered, and for the first time in a long while, I allowed myself to consider the possibility of new beginnings. Days turned into weeks, and my connection with Michael deepened. We shared laughter, stories, and each moment spent together felt like another step toward healing. His messages became the highlight of my days, and his presence a comfort I hadn't realized I needed. Hopeful yet cautious, I found myself wondering if I was finally ready to open my heart again. One evening, as we strolled through the park, the sun setting behind us, a swell of emotion took me by surprise. "Michael," I began, my voice trembling slightly, "I really appreciate everything you've been to me. You've made this transition so much easier." He stopped walking and turned to face me, concern etched across his features. "You're important to me, Sarah. I want to be here for you, no matter what that looks like. I know it's not easy, but I promise to give you all the space you need." "Thank you," I replied, my heart swelling with gratitude. "It's just, sometimes I'm afraid I'll never be able to fully move on." Michael took a step closer, his eyes soft and understanding. "You're not alone in this. Whatever happens, we'll figure it out together." As we stood there, the world around us faded, and a sense of peace washed over me. Perhaps it really was possible to forge a new path, to love and be loved again. And as I looked into his eyes, I realized that maybe, just maybe, Michael could be the partner I never knew I needed. Little did I know that life had more surprises in store, challenges that would test the very foundation of the happiness I had begun to rebuild. But for now, I was ready to embrace the joy of the present, savoring each moment as I stepped into a future filled with both uncertainty and hope. The morning sunlight filtered gently through the curtains, casting a soft glow across our bedroom. I lay there, feeling the comforting warmth of Michael beside me, an anchor in this new chapter of my life. Despite the joy of our recent news, the reality of my pregnancy at 48 weighed heavily on my mind. I let out a deep breath, rolling onto my back as my heart raced with a mix of excitement and anxiety. "Sarah, you okay?" Michael's voice pulled me from my thoughts, a warm rasp filled with concern. I turned to face him, his blue eyes searching mine for reassurance. "I'm just thinking," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. He propped himself up on one elbow, his brow furrowing. "About the baby?" "Yes," I admitted. "I've always wanted to be a mother, but this is a lot." I'm not exactly in my 20s anymore. My voice wavered as I voiced the fear that had been bubbling beneath the surface. What if I'm not cut out for this? What if I can't keep up? Michael reached out, his fingers intertwining with mine. Hey, we're in this together, remember? You're going to be an amazing mother. We'll figure it out one step at a time. His confidence in me was soothing, easing the edges of my worry. I know, but what will people say? Society has its own expectations about age and motherhood. I can't help feeling I'll be judged. Let them talk, he said firmly, giving my hand a reassuring squeeze. What matters is us, our family, and the life we're building. We're creating something beautiful, Sarah. I nodded, feeling hope kindle within me. You're right. I just need to keep reminding myself of that. As the days passed, I tried to focus on the joy of this unexpected journey. I read every book I could find on pregnancy and parenting, filling our home with laughter as Michael joined me, often with jokes that had me in stitches. It was a strange and joyous time, though shadows from my past occasionally crept in, whispering doubts and fears. When the day of our first ultrasound arrived, I was a bundle of nerves. Michael held my hand tightly as we entered the dim room, the gentle hum of the machine and the sterile scent of disinfectant surrounding us. The technician greeted us with a warm smile, instantly calming my heart. "Are you ready to see your baby?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with warmth. I nodded, my throat tight as I lay back on the examination table. Michael's excitement radiated beside me, his grip steady. "This is it, Sarah, our first glimpse." As the technician moved the wand over my belly, I held my breath, waiting for the moment that would change everything. The screen lit up, and there it was, a tiny, flickering heartbeat pulsing on the monitor. I gasped, tears filling my eyes. "Oh my God, it's real," I whispered, my voice breaking with emotion. "It's beautiful," Michael breathed, his gaze locked on the screen, his face filled with wonder. "Look at that little heartbeat." "It's ours." I blinked back tears, overwhelmed by the joy of the moment. The technician pointed out small features, and a wave of love washed over me. This tiny being was a part of us, our hopes, our dreams, our future. Just as I was beginning to sink fully into the joy, the door swung open, and my heart dropped. Jack stood there, his presence casting a shadow over our happiness. He wore a smug grin that made my skin crawl, and I felt Michael tense beside me. "Fancy meeting you here," Jack said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Didn't expect to see you at a baby appointment, Sarah. I thought you were done with all that." I felt anger rise within me, but I forced myself to stay calm, reminding myself that this moment was for my child, not for him. "What are you doing here, Jack?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. He shrugged, a smirk playing on his lips. "Just here for a checkup. Didn't expect to run into you. Or him." He nodded dismissively at Michael, whose eyes were blazing with barely contained anger. "Can we not do this here?" I said, my voice low but firm. "This is a special moment for us." Jack leaned against the doorframe, crossing his arms. "Special? Really? You're having a kid at your age? Do you realize how ridiculous that is?" Michael stood up, his voice calm but fierce. "You need to leave, Jack. This isn't the time or place for your nonsense." "Oh, I'm just stating the obvious. You're really going to be a mother? At 48? Jack laughed, mocking. "Good luck keeping up with a toddler when they're running circles around you." Anger surged through me, but I met his gaze with resolve. "You don't get to belittle me anymore, Jack. Not here, not anywhere. I'm happy, and I've moved on. You should try it." Jack rolled his eyes, but for a moment, I saw a flicker of discomfort. "Whatever helps you sleep at night, Sarah." The technician, sensing the tension, cleared her throat. "Maybe we should take a short break." "No," I replied, my voice strong and steady. "I'm not letting him ruin this moment. This is my baby, and I deserve to celebrate this." Michael stepped closer, his presence grounding me. "We're here for our child, Jack, not for your petty games. You lost any right to interfere in our lives a long time ago." Jack's face twisted with fury, but after a pause, he turned and left, slamming the door behind him. The tension in the room faded, replaced by a strange mixture of relief and lingering anger. "Are you okay?" Michael asked, his voice soft as he took my hand, concern written in his eyes. I nodded, the adrenaline slowly ebbing away. "Yes," I whispered, looking back at the monitor, our child's heartbeat still flickering on the screen. "Yes, I am." In that moment, I knew I was finally free of Jack's hold on me. I was ready to move forward, to embrace this new life and all the love it promised. As I held Michael's hand and watched our child on the screen, I felt a sense of peace and hope. This was our new beginning, and I was ready to welcome it with open arms. "Are you okay?" Michael asked, concern etched on his face. I nodded, though my heart was still racing. "I am now. Thank you for standing up for me. I really needed that." "Always," he said softly, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. "Remember, we're a team. Whatever comes our way, we'll face it together." The technician returned, her warm smile reassuring as she resumed the ultrasound. I took a deep breath, letting go of the tension Jack had brought in. I focused on the screen, on the little flicker of life that was ours. This was our moment, and nothing was going to take it away. As I lay in the hospital bed later, the antiseptic smell mingling with the gentle beeping of the monitors, I held on to the joy of seeing our baby's heartbeat. But the moment was tinged with the shadow of Jack's intrusion. Michael sat beside me, his hand firmly clasping mine, both of us still caught between waves of hope and anxiety. Just as I began to relax, the door opened again, and Jack and Emily walked in. "Look who it is," Jack sneered, his eyes narrowing. A smirk twisted at the corner of his mouth, and my heart leapt, not from excitement, but from dread. This was supposed to be a moment of love and anticipation, now marred by my ex-husband's unwanted presence. "Jack, what are you doing here?" I managed, my voice steady despite the tension. I glanced at Michael, who was visibly on edge, his grip on my hand tightening. "Just checking in on my ex-wife," Jack mocked, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "I didn't expect to see you in this state. Isn't it a bit ambitious for someone your age?" "Jack, that's enough," Michael interjected, his voice calm but firm. He rose, positioning himself protectively between Jack and me. I wanted to lash out at Jack, to make him understand the hurt he was causing, but I also felt grateful for Michael's presence. "Who do you think you are?" Jack snapped, fury flashing in his eyes. "This is none of your business. You're just some guy pretending to be a father. Actually, I'm just a man who loves Sarah and our baby." Michael shot back, his voice steady and unwavering. "If you can't respect her, you need to leave." I watched as Jack's expression shifted from anger to disbelief, as if it baffled him that someone would stand up to him for my sake. "You think you're some kind of hero? You're just a placeholder," he spat, his words biting. "Enough," I said, my voice stronger than I expected, surprising both of them. "You don't get to talk to me like that anymore, Jack. I'm not that woman you can belittle. I'm a mother now, and I deserve respect." Jack's face contorted with rage. "You think this will end well? You're too old for this. You'll regret it." "Maybe I will, but it's my choice, not yours," I replied, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "And regardless of what you think, this baby is wanted and loved. Something you never gave me." As the confrontation heated, the tension in the room grew. I could see staff at the nurse's station casting glances our way. A nurse approached, her professionalism unwavering but firm. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave," she addressed Jack, her tone leaving no room for argument. "What? You can't kick me out," he protested, his voice rising. "Actually, we can. This is a hospital, and your behavior is disruptive. If you don't leave voluntarily, we'll have to take further action." Jack's face flushed with anger as he realized he was losing control. "Fine," he spat, glaring at me and Michael. "Enjoy your little family. It won't last." As he stormed out, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. My heart was racing, but this time from the sense of victory rather than fear. Michael turned to me, a mixture of concern and pride in his eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. "I'm fine," I replied, though my voice trembled slightly. "Thank you for standing up for me." "Always," he said warmly, giving my hand a gentle squeeze. You deserve better than this. As the adrenaline faded, a calm settled over me. Standing up to Jack had felt liberating. The hospital room, which had felt heavy with apprehension, now felt like a sanctuary, a place where I could truly start over. Later, as we sat together in silence, the reality of our situation began to settle in. This was only the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope and challenges. "Let's focus on what matters," Michael said, breaking the quiet. "Our baby. We can handle anything as long as we're together." I nodded, his words like a warm blanket around me. "You're right. I'm ready to embrace this new life." Fast forward a few weeks, and I found myself in the delivery room, the atmosphere charged with anticipation. I was no longer just Sarah, the woman defined by past pain. I was about to become a mother. Michael held my hand, his steady presence a reassurance as contractions surged through me. Excitement and anxiety warred within me. "Just breathe, Sarah," Michael encouraged, his voice a soothing balm amidst the intensity. "You're doing great. Easy for you to say," I teased, managing a smile through the pain. "You're not the one pushing a human out of your body." He chuckled, his eyes brimming with love.
"True, but I'm right here, and that's what matters."
A nurse entered, calm and composed. "All right, Sarah, it's time. Let's get ready." Taking a deep breath, I steadied myself, knowing this was the moment I dreamed about. The pain was intense, but I focused on Michael's encouraging gaze, grounding me. "You've got this," he whispered, his eyes shining with pride. With one final push, I heard the most beautiful sound in the world, a tiny newborn's cry. Tears streamed down my face as the nurse placed a small, warm bundle in my arms. "Congratulations, it's a girl," she announced, and my heart swelled with overwhelming love. "Oh my God," I murmured, gazing down at my daughter, her delicate features soft and perfect. "She's beautiful." Michael leaned in, his eyes wide with awe. "She's incredible, Sarah. Look at her." In that moment, all the heartache, the struggles, and the pain of the past faded. I was filled with a profound peace, a sense of wholeness I hadn't known before. This was my new beginning. I could feel the weight of my past lifting, replaced by the promise of a future filled with love. Weeks later, we found ourselves at a community event celebrating new beginnings and family. I felt a flutter of nerves at the thought of seeing Jack and Emily again, but I'd come to realize that moving forward didn't mean erasing the past. Michael held my hand firmly, a steadying presence by my side. As we mingled, I spotted Jack across the room. Our eyes met, and my heart raced, but this time, it wasn't out of fear. It was a blend of nervousness and newfound resolve. Taking a deep breath, I reminded myself of the progress I had made. "Sarah," Jack greeted as he approached, his expression softer than I'd expected. "I see you have a beautiful girl. Congratulations." "Thank you," I replied, surprised at the calm in my own voice. "Her name is Lily." "Lily, it's a lovely name," he said, his gaze shifting to Michael. "I hope you're taking good care of her." Michael stepped forward, his protective nature apparent. "I always will," he replied firmly, his words leaving no room for doubt. A subtle tension hung in the air, but I felt something shift within me. "Jack," I began, my heart pounding, "this isn't about us anymore. It's about the choices we make going forward. I hope you can find peace in that too." He nodded slowly, a glimmer of understanding in his eyes. "I've made mistakes, Sarah. I'm sorry for how I treated you. I never meant to hurt you." There was sincerity in his gaze, and for the first time, I felt a small flicker of empathy. "Thank you, Jack. It wasn't easy, but I've become stronger because of it." As we continued talking, I felt a wave of closure wash over me. This moment wasn't about past resentment or unresolved pain. It was about growth, acceptance, and moving on. I understood that moving forward didn't require forgetting the past. It meant embracing its lessons and letting them shape the person I had become. As we left the event, I felt lighter, liberated from the lingering burdens of my past. My family, with Michael and Lily, was my focus now. I had faced my fears, stood up for myself, and come out stronger than ever. The future stretched before us, filled with endless possibilities, and I was finally ready to embrace it all. And we've reached the end of another story. If you enjoyed it, leave a comment telling us what you thought about it, and make sure to subscribe to the channel so that YouTube understands that you liked it and recommends more videos to you.